The change has a consequence. There's an old question, which is the most common disease? The most common disease that recurs post transplant. The answer was MPGN type 2. Now, since it has been reclassified into C3 glomerulopathy, the answer should be C3 glomerulopathy if it is in the options. If the question most common renal disease post transplant comes, if C3 glomerulopathy is there in the option, mark that and not MPGN type 2. Okay, MPGN type 2 no more exists. It's C3 glomerulopathy, so that is important. Post transplantation up to 85%. Previously it was MPGN type 2 up to 85 to 90. Now it has been reclassified, so it is C3 glomerulopathy. Cystic renal disease, we all know it has ADPKD, has a picture where there will be a flow chart where there will be mutation, the calcium levels will get altered and it will form a cyst. Now the concept has changed. Cystic renal disease are called as ciliopathies. Like podocytopathies, one more new pathy, it's ciliopathy. Note this down, this can be an MCQ. Why? It is said, okay, this is a proximal convoluted tubule. Okay, I'm just drawing it like a cylinder, a proximal convoluted tubule. This cilia, I'm just putting it big, it will be here. Okay, so when urine flows, it will move. When it moves, it will send signals. That's the calcium. It will send signals so that the migration, the cell division and differentiation will be normal. Means urine is flowing because it's functional. So new cells has to come. The old cells should migrate and it should differentiate. But any one of this problem, polycystin 1, polycystin 2, if this is problem, it will move but the signal will not be transmitted. So no signal, none of these will occur, so old cells will maintain and it will not move, it will not differentiate and it will form a cyst. Okay, that's why they are called as ciliopathies. This word is enough. Cystic renal disease, especially ADPKD, ARPKD, are now ciliopathies. Okay, good. Renal tumors, I already told, SDH, right? There are a few changes in WHO 2016. The cutoff for renal papillary adenoma has been changed to 1.5, 3 to 1.5 centimeter. So 3 to 1.5 centimeter. So whether a renal papillary adenoma kidney can be used for transplant or not is being debated. Now there are lots of renal diseases, chronic renal disease, and you need kidneys for transplant. 50% are diabetic, 50% are hypertensive, 60% of the kidney rejected already, gone, right? Other chronic ailments, matching and all those things will be there, in rest 10 to 20%. Tumors will be there, in rest other 5%. Of the healthy kidney, if you even remove renal papillary adenoma, very minute quantity of kidney will be present for transplantation. That's why they have relaxed this. Okay, good. And the term carcinoid is gradually being withdrawn, not only in kidney, also in GI tract, also in lung. The term carcinoid is being withdrawn and replaced by well differentiated neuroendocrine tumor. Okay, it has been renamed as well differentiated neuroendocrine tumor. Almost everywhere is being renamed. there are four hereditary things. If you see clear cell carcinoma of kidney, below that it will be written hereditary clear cell carcinomas: von Hippel-Lindau, Birt-Hogg-Dubé syndrome, hereditary papillary renal cell carcinoma, and HNL, hereditary leiomyomatosis and renal cell carcinoma. Okay, fine. It accounts for 4%. You should remember this. In Birt-Hogg-Dubé syndrome, again F for 4, right? Folliculin is the mutated thing, and in HLN-RCC it's fumarate hydratase. All four are autosomal dominant. This is regarding hereditary renal cell carcinomas. Okay. Four types of hereditary renal cell carcinomas: VHL, that's von Hippel-Lindau, Birt-Hogg-Dubé syndrome, hereditary papillary, and HLN-RCC. 4% of the renal tumors are, that's also 4 again. All 4 are autosomal dominant. 4 is F. So HLN-RCC, the mutation is fumarate hydratase. Birt-Hogg-Dubé syndrome, the mutation is in folliculin. The 2016 advancement is this has been removed from hereditary and it has been made into a separate entity. All these are the new entities of renal cell carcinoma in WHO 2016. It came out last September or October. Okay, so this can be asked in names. Hereditary renal cell carcinoma, I said right, succinate dehydrogenase, the oncometabolite, the Krebs cycle, deficient renal cell carcinoma. It's a new entity. Tubulocystic renal cell carcinoma, acquired cyst. We have read before that acquired cyst papillary carcinoma can arise. That's a risk factor. That's also an MCQ. That was a previous MCQ. Now they have classified it into a separate entity called acquired cystic renal cell carcinoma. Okay. Next is clear cell papillary renal cell carcinoma. These are 5 entities. I have put red, red, red. All these are poor prognosis. Please note this down. This can also be questions. These both are good prognosis. Tubulocystic and clear cell papillary renal cell carcinoma both are good prognosis. Right? The next. Note it down. 5 new things: HLN-RCC, succinate dehydrogenase, link it with oncometabolite, acquired cystic, all 3 are poor prognosis, tubulocystic and clear cell papillary are good prognosis. The lung. The first thing in lung was a shock. They have changed the definition of ARDS. ARDS, the time cutoff has been given. ARDS is defined as a respiratory failure occurring within 1 week. That is new. The time was not there. Of a known clinical insult with opacities not fully explained by effusion, these are okay. The time limit of 1 week is new. This can be a question. Previously the question of ARDS revolved around always at FIQ, O2, partial pressure of oxygen, all those things. Now this can be one of the options, within 1 week. Just write ARDS must be within 1 week. That's the change. Okay, the next one. emphysema, it was previously called only interstitial. They have introduced the name mediastinal emphysema. Okay, so this one only caused that subcutaneous emphysema. We know it's interstitial emphysema, but we should not be confused with media. If the word changes, we should not be confused. Mediastinal and interstitial are both the same. The rupture occurs because of violent cough or a mechanical trauma. Okay, it's the lung. It's the emphysematus bullei here. So violent cough or trauma ruptures it, and it goes into subcutaneous tissue, producing subcutaneous emphysema. You will have crepitus if you press it. Cole rank. This is one new terminology included pneumoconiosis. The Cole workers pneumoconiosis. Okay, there are different types of Cole. Some Cole causes pneumoconiosis. Some of them causes lung cancer. So how do I know which causes pneumoconiosis and which causes lung cancer? So they gave a rank called Cole rank. Okay, it increases from bituminous. Bituminous coal is the coal used in household. The household smoke comes, the household firewood smoke has bituminous coal. They increase the risk of lung cancer. Whereas anthracite coal, where the coal rank is high, causes coal workers pneumoconiosis, which is seen in mining industries. That's industrial coal. Okay, coal rank decides pneumoconiosis or lung cancer. Lower the coal rank, lung cancer. Example, bituminous coal. Higher the coal rank, coal workers pneumoconiosis. Example, anthracite coals. Lung tumors, there have been changes before. The adenomatous atypical, that was an old change. I'm not going to talk about that change. There's a new concept called bronchoalveolar stem cell. Okay, everywhere the stem cell, the mutation, the molecular genomics is coming in. The bronchoalveolar stem cell is the starting point of adenocarcinoma. Look, adenocarcinoma, not any other things. Adenocarcinoma. And there is please write it down. Bronchoalveolar stem cells starting point of pulmonary adenocarcinoma. Okay, fine. But they have introduced one more interesting point, as well as from MCQ point of view. The earliest event which occurs is chromosome 3p inactivation. Inactivation of chromosome 3p is the earliest event, both in small cell and non-small cell. See, it is both in small cell as well as non-small cell. Please note this down. This is a very, very highly potential MCQ for NEET. EGFR 30% in Asians and 10% in white. See, I'll show you the table. This is small cell carcinoma and this is non-small cell carcinoma. See, 3p 90%, 80%. Even P53 is not that high, 90 and 50. RB is not that high, 90 and 20. Before, the most common, this was the answer. The last AAPJ answer, this must have been the answer. Now it is 3p deletion, 90 and 80. That's the most common. I'll give it in a PDF point. No need to write everything in this. Okay. KRAS is seen EGFR, and then ALK rearrangement. Mesothelioma also, they have included one gene, BAP1. Just write mesothelioma. We had few questions. One is that WT1, calretinine, all those are the IHC markers, and the electron microscopy, long, unbranched, thin villi. That's a question. Along with that, BAP1. This is it has a diagnostic utility. If BAP1 is mutated, it's not seen in adenocarcinoma, so you can easily diagnose it's a mesothelioma. GIT, they have introduced two new terms called microscopic colitis. These present as chronic diarrhea, chronic watery diarrhea. The first thing when a patient presents to diarrhea, what will we think is an infectious disease. We won't think anything else. We will think an infectious. Most commonly we will think, okay, acute gastroenteritis, viral. Persists for long, very severe, okay, cholera. Even more severe, not responding to anything, immunocompromised, some clostridium or something like that, right? Or a cryptosporidium, something like that, or isosporidium. Even that is negative. There is a possibility these are non-infectious chronic watery diarrhea causing agents. And the most important is they can be diagnosed only by histopathology, nothing else. You put a scope, give a tissue, I'll say it's collagenous colitis or lymphocytic colitis. Collagenous colitis can be a perfect image based question. Okay, it looked like this. See, epithelium, this is the lamina propria, this thick collagen below the epithelium, greater than 10 micron. This is a potential image based question. This is spotter for MD. This is a potential, very very potential image based question. Okay, collagenous colitis. In lymphocytic colitis, you will have 15 to 20%, 20 lymphocytes per 100 epithelial cells. If you have more than that, the amount of lymphocytes, we call it lymphocytic colitis. Okay, it should be differentiated from the celiac disease, where the blunting of villi, all of them will be present, which is not be seen in lymphocytic colitis. One more thing, newly introduced one, serrated polyp. Okay, serrated polyp. Serrated polyp. This is the picture. It will have, if a polyp is like this, okay, it will have serrations. See, here, it has serrations. Right, that's a serrated polyp. See, serrations. That's a serrated polyp. Okay, that's a serrated polyp. Fine. The use of this is, these serrated polyp are always most commonly associated with microsatellite instability. This is a question. This is an MCQ. If it is a serrated polyp, it is not an APC mutation, which is the most common in colonic carcinomas, right? If it's a serrated polyp, it's a microsatellite instability change and not an APC mutation, right? And do note this down. This can be asked, surgery MCQs can be asked based on this. The recommended surveillance by colonoscopy. How often do you do colonoscopy? The number of tubular adenomas is important, as well as the size is important. Greater than 10, any size, 3 years, less than 3 years. If you see a villous adenoma, you have to do it once in 3 years, because villous adenoma is more malignant than tubular adenoma. Again, I'll give you the picture of this, don't worry. The next one is sessile serrated polyp with no dysplasia, that is serrated polyp. Whenever you see serrated polyp, the surveillance here goes down. See, tubular adenoma 10. If it is only more, it is, but here even one sessile serrated polyp, it becomes 5. If a serrated polyp with dysplasia, the size increases, it becomes 3. Even 1. That HGD is high grade dysplasia. Okay, so even one serrated polyp is not good. What is CD21 and CR2? Come on, this is a famous MCQ. That's a point of entry of which virus? Great, Epstein-Barr virus. Similarly, you have a receptor for Ebola virus. Ebola was a nutrient, right? HIV CR1. HIV is hepatitis A virus. Hepatitis A virus receptor serves as a receptor for Ebola virus also. Okay, like Epstein-Barr virus, this can also be an MCQ. Okay. Clostridium difficile. See, I said right, microbiome. Microbiome is doing wonders. What is Clostridium difficile due to? It's because of a large spectrum antibiotic. It kills the microbiome, the gut flora, so we have an infection called Clostridium difficile. The treatment is again the vancomycin, metronidazole, right? But instead of, this is the problem, this has been killed, so very easy, replace it with a fecal transplant. Fecal transplant has 100% success rate in difficile. It's not costly, it's very cheap. Vancomycin is costly. It has all side effects, Redman syndrome. It's just from a normal patient or a normal person, shit, put it in capsule and put it in the mouth. It's very easy. This will replace the lost microbiome. Okay, this will replace the lost microbiome and it will cure the disease. Great, right? Good. Next one, aspirin. This is circulating in social media as more common. You know, have aspirin, you won't have colonic tumors. It's not that good, but aspirin is known to decrease the size and the number of colonic polyps in patients with FAP. Okay, aspirin decreases the size as well as the number of polyps in patients with familial adenomatous polyposis. How it does is, it inhibits the nuclear factor K beta, promote beta catenin degradation. If you remember, the APC mutation will leave the beta catenin alone, which will cause proliferation. So here it promotes beta catenin degradation. Okay, and down regulates a molecule called cervivin, which leads to apoptosis of the neoplastic cells. Okay, that's how aspirin helps in decreasing the number as well as the size of polyps in patient with familial adenomatous polyposis. Okay, and this is again a new one. Ulcerative colitis has immunohistochemistry. Immunohistochemistry CG3 and immunohistochemistry DAS1. Positive CG3 and negative DAS1 diagnosis ulcerative colitis. Okay, positive CG3 and negative DAS1 IHC It is ulcerative colitis. Because ulcerative colitis is difficult to diagnose. There are lots of differential diagnoses. Other colitis, indeterminate colitis. For that they have developed this. Okay. CNS tumors. CNS tumors is like, there are lots of changes, but few changes are needed for an MCQ point of view. These 3 tumors have been removed. These 3 tumors have been removed. Gematocytic astrocytoma is a distinct variant. It was a distinct variant before, now also it's a distinct variant. But important is, these 3 tumors no more exist in WHO. Protoplasmic astrocytoma, fibrillary astrocytoma, and gliomatosis cerebri. These 3 do not exist. Okay. Fine. Good. And it's no more called glioblastoma multiforme. It's just glioblastoma. Thank goodness. The multiforme is gone now. One less word to remember. It's called a glioblastoma. Okay. Fine. IDH, I said right? IDH is used in glioblastoma. IDH is a oncometabolite. Awesome, man. You people are good. IDH wild type glioblastoma and mutant glioblastoma. These are the 2 types of glioblastoma. The important thing is, most common is wild type. That's primary glioblastoma, and it has poor survival. These 3 are important to remember. IDH wild type is the most common. They are mostly the primary glioblastomas, and they have a poor survival, and it occurs in the 6th decade. Okay. IDH mutant glioblastoma, it's seen only in 10% of the patients. It's a secondary glioblastoma, and it has better survival. The location also varies. You know, again, if you are fans of Grey's Anatomy, there will be a frontal butterfly tumor. You remember? Frontal butterfly tumor, which will be removed by McDreamy, the Derek Shepherd. Because he will say that it has a good prognosis. Yeah, it has a better survival. Those people take dramas based on, real facts. We should know the facts. We are doctors. They are actors, they know the facts, and we have to know the fact. IDH mutant glioblastoma, 10% secondary and occurs in frontal location, has a better survival. Okay? Good. There's a new entity, epithelioid glioblastoma. Look for the option in PGMR. Glioblastoma is a new entity called epithelioid glioblastoma. Ependymoma. This is must. Please write this. Ependymoma with ReLa fusion. ReLa is a gene. It has multiple unique points. Again, PGI bar NEAT. It has multiple unique points. It's seen 70% of childhood ependymoma. Not seen in adult ependymoma. They are mostly supratentorial ependymomas. This can be asked in NEAT. Supratentorial ependymomas has what genetic abnormality? Okay. Posterior fossa and spinal ependymomas don't have ReLa fusion. No ReLa fusion in posterior fossa ependymomas and spinal ependymomas. Always ReLa fusion ependymomas are high grade. Just remember high grade. No need to say grade 2 and above. just they are high grade. Okay, relapse fusion, we'll go once again. It's seen in 70% of childhood ependymomas, no adult ependymomas. Most are supratentorial, not seen in posterior fossa and spinal, and they are high grade. See, one positive, one negative, one positive, one negative, present, absent, and they are high grade. Okay. There's one more thing. Cerebral cavernous hemangioma can have mutation in these three tumor suppressor genes. This is rare, but still, since it's a new update, I am putting it here. Cerebral cavernous hemangiomas have mutations in three tumor suppressor genes: CCM1, 2, and 3. Okay. Urogenital system. Now we are coming to the fag end of the session, right? So urogenital system has very little update. One I already told. Penile carcinomas should have what IHC? Yeah, excellent. P16 IHC and HPV testing. In USA, according to CDC, prostate carcinoma is the most common type. Please note, CDC's statement is based on USA's data and not the world's data. Worldwide, still lung carcinoma is the first. If the question comes in USA or CDC, then write prostate, but not worldwide. Okay, not worldwide. This has been included in prostate. Tempress and ETS fusion is seen in 40 to 60% of prostate cancers. Okay, Tempress and ETS fusion gene is seen in 40 to 60% of prostate cancer. Okay, right? Stick is a beautiful concept. We know serous ovarian carcinomas, right? They are aggressive type, but it is said that, see the beauty of it, serous ovarian carcinomas has a precursor called stick, that is serous tubal. This is fallopian tube. See, this is fallopian tube. Serous tubal intraepithelial carcinomas. This came into existence because there are tubectomies done. All the tubectomies will come to path department. So when they observed it, and when they had a data, they observed that patient on follow-up who developed ovarian carcinomas had some nuclear abnormality during tubectomies. So then what they did is, they thought, why could not be this a precursor lesion? Then they went back and did P53 staining in all the suspected cases. P53 was positive. That's the next MCQ. Stick cells are positive for P53. Okay? Two things. Stick is a precursor for serous carcinomas of ovary, and stick is positive for P53. What is said that in the fimbriline, this stick, whenever there is an ovulation, right? Ovulation, there is a cyst. It will burst out. So this is an opening. So the stick goes inside and forms metaplasia and dysplasia and produces a carcinoma, produces a serous carcinoma. For MCQ point of view, it's serous tubular intraepithelial carcinoma, stick, which is positive for P53, and They are precursors of serous ovarian carcinomas. Okay, this is the last update. Salt split technique. This is not in Robbins, but still, this was an AIIMS 2 years back. AIIMS had a name of salt split. Salt split is used to differentiate bullous pemphigoid with epidermolysis bullosa acquisita. I'll tell what is salt split and how it is used. Okay. So salt split is nothing but you take a skin biopsy and put it in sodium chloride. When you put it in sodium chloride, that is the salt, the skin biopsy splits at this level, lamina lucida. Okay. Now I'm just drawing this into a pictorial representation. Okay, this part alone. So here it is split here. So densa is the base, right? So this part, the hemidisposome part, is the roof, right? So what is there in the roof? What is there in the roof? BPAG1 and BPAG2. Okay. BPAG1 and BPAG2. These are seen in, bullous pemphigoid. Great. What is this? This is the problem with epidermolysis bullosa acquisita. So I do a immunofluorescence here. If it stains the roof, the diagnosis is excellent. So easy. The diagnosis is bullous pemphigoid. If it stains the base, what is the diagnosis? It is epidermolysis bullosa acquisita. It is that simple as that. Okay. I'll show you the picture. See here. This is the separation. Okay, this is the separation, and here this is the separation. This is very faint, but it has a faint green again. See where it is stained. Roof or base? This is keratin layer. Roof or base? Roof. Diagnosis? Awesome. Bullous pemphigoid. Roof or base? This is keratin layer. Base. Diagnosis? That's all. That's all. That's all. Path is, that's it. It's so easy. You can do it, you will do it, and you should do it. Right? Fine. The updates are over. Just we'll go back once again quickly from the first slide to the last slide. Just once you keep on, these are all new terminologies. You keep on revising the new terminologies, you keep on hearing the new terminologies, you will tend to retain more. Okay? Fine. So apoptosis we know. Physiological conditions and pathological conditions, how they initiate apoptosis. Loss of growth factors in embryogenesis and epithelial turnover. Hormone levels, it's easy. Endometrial phase. Loss of survival signals. The survival signal is nothing but the interleukin in case of leukocyte number reduction after an acute inflammation. And this we saw. The immune tolerance can activate both mitochondrial as well as death receptor. Before it was predominantly death receptor, now it can activate both mitochondrial as well as death receptor. Pathological, DNA damage, base 3 only proteins, especially P53, it is PUMA, that's an important question. Misfolded proteins can activate as well as direct activation of caspases. Viral infections activates only mitochondrial and not membrane or extrinsic pathway. The next one, ER induced cell loss is of two types. One is, what is the concept behind this is, whenever there is a misfolded protein, either my body tries to decrease the protein production or degrade the existing protein or tries to kill the cell itself. So what switches this on and off is IRE1. Okay, this triggers killing of a cell. So some diseases, there is a decreased production of the protein or degradation of the existing protein, and some diseases there is ER induced cell loss or ER induced apoptosis. So based on that, there are three different classifications. One is degradation of proteins alone, cystic fibrosis, familial hypercholesterolemia, and Tay-Sachs. The other one is ER induced cell loss alone, that is retinitis pigmentosa, Creutzfeldt-Jakob, and Alzheimer's. Always there is a both. Both is seen in alpha 1 antitrypsin deficiency. These are potential MCQs for all except question. Dystrophic calcification, I said, it's not a new concept, it's an old one, but it's a new question. It occurs in the tip of the papillae because papillae tip has less blood supply, so it can occur in the tip of the papillae. Aging, only one thing to remember, the mechanism of aging, pyroptosis is the mechanism of cell death in aging. If an MCQ comes related to aging, go for pyroptosis. Okay, the greatest confusion is immediate and transient response. 8th edition, it was contraction for immediate and retraction for delayed. 9th edition, the retraction went and contraction only was there. And then 10th edition, retraction only is there and contraction went. So I don't know what to choose. If it's an AIIMS, go for contraction because this book is not so prevalent now. If it's an NBE question, go for retraction. Okay, see retraction in 10th edition and contraction in 9th edition. Netosis, neutrophilic extracellular trap. Netosis is a beneficial suicide. My RBCs, my neutrophils form a trap and then it kills the microorganisms like a spider web. It just traps like a spider web and kills it. So only it's called a beneficial suicide. But the problem is, whenever it kills it, the neutrophil contents comes out. The neutrophil contents comes out. That's why that is the starting point of SLE and ANCA-mediated vasculitis. So the diseases which comes under netosis are SLE and ANCA-mediated vasculitis. The use of this is, if I can find a solution to prevent this, I can find a cure for this disease, right? The gold standard for immunology is antigen receptor rearrangement. Gold standard for differentiating lymphoma and lymphoma mimics is antigen receptor dearrangement and not histopathology. If antigen receptor dearrangement or PCR is the option, go for that and not for histopathology. Why it is so? Because antigen receptor rearrangement can help me to identify the monoclonality of the tumor cells. If the tumor is going to be monoclonal, 100% is going to be a neoplasm and not a benign proliferation. There's one more chromosome added, chromosome 15. Which part of the MHC? The beta 2 microglobulin chain of the MHC is coded by chromosome 15. Okay, not like receptors we already know. The only one addition is the cytosolic DNA sensors which detects the DNA. Rig-like was detecting DNA and RNA previously, now it detects only RNA. SLE, 2 more criteria added: low complement, low C3, C4 and CH50 and direct Coombs positive in the absence of autoimmune hemolytic anemia. Graft rejection, it's natural IgM antibody and we hardly get hyperacute graft rejection now because we do donor specific antibody. HLA rejection, these two are old questions. 10 by 10 is needed for bone marrow transplant. HLA is not needed for liver transplant. The best testing is PCR SSP and SSOP. Tissue typing is not done. Genetics, you have to know why there is no protein formation, because if there is a nonsense or a stop codon, the mRNA itself gets decayed. Marfans, the beauty of Marfans is TGF-beta receptor. You know why fibrillin causes mutation? Okay, because it releases TGF-beta. So Marfan syndrome type 2 is the gain of function of TGF-beta receptor can itself cause Marfan syndrome. And there is one more thing, inherited predisposition of TGF-beta 3, right? It's not Marfan's, but it's any inherited predisposition for aortic aneurysm. The beauty of this is the TGF-beta receptor can be targeted by a simple losartan. So the clinical trials are going on. If it's successful, losartan can be given to treat Marfan's. Gaucher's, it's not only a storage disease, it's an inflammatory disease, releases inflammatory cytokines and results in cancer cachexia-like syndrome. Gaucher's and Parkinson is related. The beauty of this relation is, if I can give an enzyme replacement, alpha-synuclein synuclein level goes down, providing a chance for cure of Parkinson's. Also, one more alternative cheap therapy is substrate reduction therapy. Liquid biopsy, yes. NIPT is non-invasive paternal testing. The advantage, it can give an early result at 10 weeks. It is non-invasive. I see the free fetal DNA and look for trisomy. Same thing can be used for, this is wrong, right? It can be used for only glioblastoma by taking a blood and need not poke a brain and take a biopsy. CRISPR is the beauty. CRISPR is the ultimate thing which can make gene therapy very successful and very easy. CRISPR are molecular scissors. It cuts the unwanted thing and inserts a wanted thing, or cuts two product and inserts an extra chromosome. So for mutations, non-homologous end joining. Non-homologous end joining is the method, and to introduce a new one, you need to have a homologous recombination. These are MCQ point of view. Flint water crisis for lead poisoning. Microbiome is absolutely mind-blowing. How I am obese, tiny little, inflammatory bowel disease, diabetes is decided by microbiome. So you may prescribe in future fecal pills to cure a malnutrition or a marasmus or a Kwashiorkor kid, or you may prescribe the same thing to treat morbidly obese patients. And the beauty is autism shows improvement after fecal transplant. How do microbes evolve therapy? A picture, tabular column, which are potential sites of MCQs. One more thing, a new organism for leprosy is Mycobacterium lepromatosis. Apart from Mycobacterium leprae, look for this option in PGI. Neoplasia, tumor gene cells has been introduced as a new one. Retrograde lymphatics is now the accepted. Oncogenic mRNA is used. Ras-MIC mRNA is in lung cancer, and miRNA for BCL2 is in leukemia. The percentage 30% for RAS and 75% for P53. The numbers are changed. Quiescence means temporary cell arrest. Oncometabolism, the acrepside kills enzymes IDH and SDH, which is an oncometabolite for IDH, 2-hydroxyglutarate. IDH is seen in gliomas or cholangiocarcinomas, acute myeloid leukemias, and sarcomas, and SDH is seen in GIST and renal cell carcinomas. Immunotherapy and cancer. Immunotherapy, how my cancer cell escapes my immunity is the same way as energy. It produces CTLA4 and PD1. So I have anti-PD1 and anti-CTLA4, so which activates my own immunity to kill the tumor cells. That way it's approved under for melanoma, few types of lung carcinoma and Hodgkin's. So future immunotherapy will play a big role in cancer treatment than chemotherapy. And adaptive immunity and chimeric antigen receptors, that's enough for remembering. AJCC 8th edition, ITC is less than 2 mm cluster of tumor cells, except for Merkel's and melanoma, where it is still considered as N1. P16 is used in head and neck and pineal carcinomas. It's a surrogate marker of HPV infection. In thyroid, T4 has been divided into T3B if it involves only strap muscles, and the age of 45 is replaced by 55. This is an old MCQ, so now the answer changes. Esophagus, based on the epicenter, less than 2 cm, you stage it as esophageal carcinoma. Greater than 2 cm, you stage it as stomach carcinomas. Omics, the names exome, exon sequencing, genome, the entire genome. Transcriptome is the RNA expressed. Proteome is the protein produced. Metabolome is the metabolites which are produced. If you have omics data for everything, it may probably lead to a cure for cancer in future. That's the hope. That's the hope Robbins gives. That's the hope we have fighting against cancer. Hematology, mastocytosis, not under MPN, is a new entity. CML, accelerated phase, has provisional criteria for TKA response. AML is the most common blast crisis. ALL is the most aggressive blast crisis. So lymphoblast, if you see even a single lymphoblast, it should be reported. Neutrophilic leukemia is CSF3R receptor mutation is diagnostic. Polycythemia vera has many changes. The change in the hemoglobin, introduction of hematocrit, bone marrow biopsy are major criteria, and removal of endogenous colony forming unit as a minor criteria. Myelofibrous leukocytosis included, and one more mutation called calreticulin, and not calretinin. It's calreticulin. It's seen most commonly in JAK negative, MPL negative myeloproliferative neoplasms. The next one is acute myeloid leukemia, new entities, BCR-ABL, NPM1, and biallelic. Please look, biallelic. And RUNX mutated, not translocated. FLT3 has a poor prognosis. Sunitinib is a targeted therapy. Acute lymphoid leukemia, same BCR-ABL, B-cell, and IAMP21. And T-cell has two new things, early T and NKT lymphoblastic, not NKT cell leukemia, NKT lymphoblastic leukemia. Myelodysplastic syndrome, the refractory anemia has been replaced by MDS. There's no term refractory, it's just MDS with lineage dysplasia, and the provisional entity of refractory cytopenia of childhood has been introduced. Hairy cell leukemia, BRAF is the most common. In the absence of BRAF, we will have MAP kinase mutation, that is also documented. Okay, and monoclonal B-cell lymphocytosis is a sure shot question for AIIMS or PGIMR. It is a precursor for CLL. The lymphocyte count will be up to 5000. It will not exceed 5000. If it exceeds 5000, it is CLL. The IHC should be like a CLL or a mantle. It's seen in 12% of normal individuals, and there are low count and high count monoclonal B-cell lymphocytosis. Myeloma. The importance of myeloma is the prognosis. How fast it progresses to myeloma, not prognosis, progresses to myeloma. In smoldering myeloma, there is a change. It is 10 to 60% now, and not greater than 10%. Because if it's greater than 10%, in the absence of anything, I can call it a myeloma. Okay. And solitary plasmacytoma, we have with minimal bone marrow involvement, a new one, because the risk at the rate which is progress to myeloma is much more. Biomarkers of malignancy, clonal plasma cell percentage greater than 60, uninvolved to involved light chain, and greater than 1 focal lesion in MRI. These are the progression rates for myeloma. Light chain MGUS 0.3%, non-light chain MGUS 1%, IgM MGUS 1.5, smoldering myeloma, solitary plasmacytoma without bone marrow, all these are 3 years, 10%, 20% and 60% for soft tissue and bone. Okay. Hodgkin's, two changes in Hodgkin's. One is already we know, that is the anti-PD1 has been approved. Another, it's not an exact change which has been ignored till now, the X disease or bulky disease. If there is a lymph node or any organ which is involved is greater than 6 cm the mass, or greater than 1/3 of the mediastinum, if it is there, we call it an X disease, which has a poor prognosis. RBC disorders, there are a few misconceptions in RBC disorders. The definitive hematopoietic stem cell arises in the intraembryonic aorta and not the yolk sac. If this is not there in the option, go for yolk sac, but it is wrong. References are Winthrop as well as Robbins. Definitive hematopoietic stem cell occurs in the mesosome of intraembryonic aorta gonad mesonephros region. RBC membrane defect HS, hereditary spherocytosis, it's a tower. Along the tower, whatever happens, the end point is going to be problematic. So the end point is the band 3, to which eosin 5 maleimide binds. So eosin 5 maleimide is a gold standard for diagnosis of HS by flow cytometry. It binds to band 3. Bite cells is not due to removal of Heinz bodies by macrophages. It's a very wrong concept. It has been from time immemorial. It is changed from the bite to the non-staining part of hemoglobin. G6PD, the screening test is Butler's fluorescence spot test. The gold standard test or the diagnostic test is evaluation of the mutation. Okay. PNH gel card test. If it is present, gel card is nothing but I add anti-CD55 and anti-CD99 to a normal patient. If a normal patient, since they have CD55 and 59, they agglutinate and they go down, so control is also down. If it is all down, it's a normal patient. If it is up, the patient is suffering from PNH. The order of test Gold standard is FLAIR, it's fluorescent aerolysin, flow cytometry, gel card, and then only acidified serum lysis test. Men syndrome MEN4, P27 mutation, or else cyclin dependent kinase N1B mutation. Pheochromocytoma, pituitary adenoma, parathyroid we already know. In addition, there can also be seen as genitourinary tumors. Pheochromocytoma, the criteria for malignancy is mitosis, but PAS score, pheochromos associated adrenal gland score, predicts malignancy. Ewing sarcoma, the diagnostic marker is FLI1 and not CD99 or MYC2. Same for GIST, which is Dodge1 and not CD117. Okay. In heart, one of the risk factors in addition to the non-modifiable is clonal hematopoiesis. So old age, there's accumulation of hematopoietic stem cell. This somehow has a risk factor for atherosclerosis. Cardiac stem cells, they are seen in myocardium. It's an old thing and not an update. Myocardium, since this can be asked as a question, and there is some success with regeneration post MI. In kidney, podocytopathy is an entirely new concept. There are 4 types: minimal change, focal segmental glomerular sclerosis, diffuse mesangial sclerosis, and collapsing of glomerular basement membrane. And C3 glomerulopathy is a new entity again, under which the dense deposit disease come, which is formerly MPGN type 2, now it has been reclassified to dense deposit, and C3 glomerulonephritis. These two are in C3. Immunofluorescence, you find C3 in the mesangium and the glomerular capillary loops. Electron microscopy has a peculiar thing, that's waxy deposits. If the term waxy comes, think of this. And one of the old repeat MCQ is post-transplant, which is the most common disease which comes. The answer was MPGN type 2. Now the answer should be C3 glomerulonephritis if that is in the option. Okay. Cystic renal disease has been reclassified into ciliopathies because it has a cilia in the PCT that has when the urine flows, the cilia will be activated, which determines all the cell polarization, division, and differentiation. When one of them component of cilia is mutated or altered or deleted, the process won't occur, resulting in cyst formation. Tumors, change in the cutoff of renal papillary adenoma, carcinoid being changed to well-differentiated neuroendocrine tumor, and there are 4 hereditary tumors. Of that, one has been removed, that is HLN-RCC, is a new entity altogether, along with succinate dehydrogenase, which we know, acquired cystic RCC, which also we know, now it's a new. All these 3 have poor prognosis, whereas tubulocystic and clear cell papillary has a good prognosis. Lung, ARDS is changed to 1 week. Mediastinal emphysema is also known as interstitial emphysema. Cold rank is there. Higher the cold rank, more chance of coal workers pneumoconiosis. Lower the coal rank, that is a bituminous coal, household coal, which has more chance of lung cancer. Lung tumors, stem cell has come into lung tumors also. And the most important thing is the earliest event, inactivation of 3P. It's not only the earliest, it's also the most common event occurs in lung tumors. Mesothelioma, you have a BAP1 mutation, which is diagnostic of mesothelioma. GIT, 2 new entities, beautiful entities, non-infectious watery diarrhea, which can be diagnosed only by histopathology, where collagenous colitis is a highly potential image-based question. You can see the collagen deposit here. It will, one thing, it can mimic amyloidosis. How do you differentiate amyloidosis? Amyloidosis won't be deposited like this, just below the membrane. The location is important. Amyloidosis will be around the vessels, okay, and amyloidosis will not present the diarrhea. These are the 2 points which can differentiate. Microscopic lymphocytic colitis, 15 to 20 lymphocytes per 100 epithelial cells. You have to differentiate it from celiac disease, where the blunting of villi and all those things will be seen. Serrated polyp, you can see the serrations. Only good thing is it does not have an APC pathway, it has a microsatellite instability pathway, so it has a poor prognosis compared to villus and the tubulovillus or tubular adenomas. These are the recommendations for surveillance for screening intervals. Like CD21 and CR3 for EBV, Ebola virus also has a receptor, HIV CR1, that is hepatitis virus CR1 receptor, through which the Ebola virus enters. Clostridium difficile, we know what's the pathogenesis, so the ideal treatment